Hello and welcome to the Anne and Film Scoop. I'm Phelim McAleer. Anne McElhinney is unfortunately unwell at the moment. We don't think it's COVID related. We think it may be allergy related. Cold, maybe a cold. Do you remember people used to catch flus and colds? Apparently they still do. So I'm doing this on my own, so obviously, please be gentle, please be kind. So first of all, I want to update you on the My Son Hunter movie. We're almost finished post-production. Like, we're days away from having a final movie wrapped in a bow, ready to go, and we're going to be announcing exciting news about it in the next few weeks. So hang back there. Obviously the Hunter Biden has been spying on the movie, and in a few weeks he won't. Maybe in a few months he won't have to spy on it. It'll be out. But he wanted to see what was going on behind the scenes. He wanted to see. He sent his lawyer over in a private jet. We estimate it cost several $100,000. Nice to be a Biden, nice to be a Democrat. You never have to pay your taxes. People give you money. People don't prosecute you. And you can afford to send your lawyer on a private jet to investigate people who might be poking fun at you and your transgressions. But that is the way of the world we're in now. So it just makes us all the more determined to launch the movie and do a few other things. So, because, let's have some fun along the way. I have some ideas cooking up that I haven't told Anne about yet, and probably a reason for that. I can actually hear her sense of wonder at the moment, wondering what I'm getting up to. But watch this space. My Son Hunter will be with you shortly, and we're going to have trailers and teasers and all the rest. So, what else is happening? Yes, they yanked our theatre. We endured actor walkouts. The show went on, though, as you know, and the Gosnell play ends in New York to almost universal praise. But you won't be surprised who was unimpressed. Shocker. This is not the news that's fit to print. And a new documentary about abortion, kind of the history of how we got to where we are at this historical time in America's history. How did we get here? A new documentary. We speak to the director. And Crazy California, It's Too Salty by Half. Even laughing at my own jokes. They don't care. They don't care about the drought. Don't listen to them when they tell you to save water. They don't care, so why should you? And Netflix is panicked into thinking maybe free speech is a good thing for artists. What took them so long to work that out? The Gosnell play has ended in New York. There's pictures of the cast, the wonderful, wonderful cast. There you can see the cast giving gifts to the director and the stage manager. The director was David Atkinson, who at the last moment popped in to make sure that that the actor who dropped out, the actor who walked away, was replaced. Both of whom, it would have been impossible to have this go ahead without the stage manager, without the director, especially in this case where the director stepped in when two of the actors walked out 24 hours before we were supposed to open. I mean, everything was thrown at us to stop this play going ahead. The O Gosnell, A Story About the Truth. Just to remind you, we had booked a Theatre Row for this show, and 6 days before the show was supposed to open for previews, they cancelled the booking, alleging fraud, complete madness, complete lies. They didn't like the political aspects of this film. Then, 24 hours before before the play was supposed to open, two of the actors walked out, meaning we had to cancel the previews. So David, the director, stepped in and took one of the places for one of the actors. I wanted to show you now some of the reaction and some of the reviews. This is Rich Swingle. He has an email in New York, or actually it's a national prayer email, and Rich came and interviewed me, but then he went and saw the play, and here's some excerpts of his review. Let's play there from 2:45 to 3:38. We brought the play here because Hollywood is doing a pro-abortion play of itself, a one-woman comedy, and we thought, well, let's have a courtroom's an amazing thing. You're not allowed to have political slogans in a courtroom. You're not allowed to say something without evidence to back it up. So that's why a courtroom tends to be quite truthful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the elements that just really struck me in the film, which was so well done, by the way.
Thank you.
And was that the babies were actually born and then killed.
Yep.
In many cases.
Yeah. No, the play isn't that graphic, right? We don't have any picture or anything like that. But yeah, that was his way of killing people. He was a serial killer, who found his vocation in abortion, and killing them through abortion just wasn't enough. So he would give the women drugs to induce labor, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and then kill them after they were born. Couldn't have put it better myself, Rich. And let's play again then from 354 to 456. He was a massive drug dealer. He abused the women. He hit women. This is a man, and he ran a house of horrors, cats everywhere, filthy, rotten. And of course, the bureaucrats in Harrisburg let him do this without ever inspecting the clinic, because of a pro-choice Republican governor who thought he had to be pro-choice to Tom Ridge to win Pennsylvania, and allowed him to kill and kill and kill because he stopped inspections of abortion clinics when he became governor.
Unbelievable. And now, of course, a survey just came out last week or earlier this week that said that now a majority of Americans want Roe v. Wade gone. And that's the first time I've heard that. I knew it was moving in that direction, but now more people in America.
Yeah, well, I see all different kinds of surveys. I don't know which to trust. And I'm not really that interested in the surveys. I'm more interested in telling people the truth. And the courtroom, as I say, it's a great place to get the truth out. To me, that's a very honest and accurate review of the play. And don't forget, this play was inspired partly by reenactments we were doing on the Gosnell story for our podcast, but also because J.J. Abrams and the Hollywood elite were bringing a pro-abortion play to New York. It was called Oh God, A Show About Abortion, and that's why we originally called our play Oh Gosnell, A Show About Abortion, because we wanted it to stand up in contrast to this play. And I thought that was a fair enough thing to do, in the interest of everyone hearing an alternative point of view. One is an emotional story, the other is very trial-based facts. Don't forget, the Gosnell story is an actual verbatim testimony play. But then the New York Times, I'm sure they didn't want to review our play, but the news about Roe v. Wade broke. Abortion was in the headlines, so they went and they reviewed both Alison Levy's play, the one funded by J.J. Abrams, and they reviewed ours. And the contrast is almost funny. They talk about Alison Levy coming out and having fun about her abortion, and this is billed as a comedy about abortion. And I went and saw it, and I thought it was neither comedic nor, by the way, did it talk about abortion. So here's the review. So here's the first thing you need to know about Levy's abortion story. In a smart, entertaining show full of observations about the sometimes painful messiness of female bodies, menstruation, childbirth, lactation, and the social pressure to put a happy face on almost all of it, her trip to Planned Parenthood is the least dramatic and most calmly straightforward part. She's correct in that, but actually, what really is in the play is that her trip to Planned Parenthood is jumped over, is smoothed over, is not talked. It's about everything. It's about all the other messiness of the female bodies, menstruation, childbirth, and lactation. But abortion, this is a comedy about abortion that is neither comedic nor, by the way, is it about abortion. She's right, but she doesn't realize how right she is, that critic there. It's Laura Collins from the New York Times. This is not about abortion. It's about everything else. And, as she says at the end of the play, does this feel anticlimactic to you? And it did, because there was nothing about abortion there. And then Laura moves on to our play. A couple of miles uptown at the chain studio theatre in West 36th Street is a show that announced its New York run as Oh Gosnell, The Truth About Abortion. A tabloid title with stalkerish overtones, given that its own news release mentions Levy's show. So we're stalker. So producing a play in response to producing a work of art in response to another work of art is stalking in the world in these terms. It's very interesting how they cast everything negatively. And I mean, this is a classic of a negative review. A publicist for Oh Gosnell said the creation of the play was inspired by Levy's comic monologue. The only reason the publicist said that is because she asked the publicist, and the publicist asked me, and I sent the publicist a message. I assumed that it was coming. The message came from me. It just came via a publicist. It didn't come from the publicist. And then she says it's written by Phelim McAleer, who is credited on IMDb as a producer on the yet-to-be-released film My Son Hunter. And it's like, what does that mean? So everything is every part of her review has phrases like that. It's credited as this, and it's described as this. And look, Laura from the New York Times, you can actually go on the internet. You can actually ask me, am I a producer on the My Son Hunter movie? And I will answer you yes. So you don't have to phrase it as who is credited as. And then she goes on, laughter and truth are not mutually exclusive, of course. Even if 𝙎𝙤𝙤𝙊𝙘, a right-wing provocateur whose program bio calls him a veteran investigative journalist, implies otherwise. And it's like, well, go and check, Laura. Like, I've done investigative journalism in, and this is just off the top of my head, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, Romania, Bulgaria, Vietnam, Chile, Madagascar. That's just off the top of my head. There are 2 people serving lengthy prison sentences in Indonesia because of our undercover journalism, myself and Anne's undercover journalism. I infiltrated a baby buying and baby selling ring in Vietnam, and infiltrated a baby selling ring in Indonesia. People are serving lengthy life prison sentences as a result. So what's this with, whose program bio, either I am or not? Like, Laura, if you have some information that I'm not, well then that's a real story, so you should report that. And then she has a paragraph. The script for the play says that it was compiled verbatim from grand jury and criminal trial transcripts, and she puts that in quotation marks. Look, to put it in quotation marks implies that it's not true. Either it's true or it's not. If you have some evidence that it's not true, then you're almost obliged to say it is verbatim. It's actual verbatim testimony. My favorite bit is, so the opening of the show is the prosecutor in the Gosnell trial saying, the first thing I want you to be assured of, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, says at the top of the show, this is not a case about abortion. And for emphasis, she repeats the assertion. And then the New York Times reviewer comes in and goes, maybe 𝙎𝙤𝙤𝙊𝙘, the co-author of a book about the Gosnell case and a producer of the 2018 Gosnell movie, didn't hear her, right? And I'm going, yes, I heard her, but dear New York Times reviewer, have you ever heard of the literary concept of the unreliable narrator? I felt that prosecutor was being an unreliable narrator and trying to distract the jury's attention. This is not a case about abortion. And you know what? It was totally a case about abortion. And in fact, the defense made that case. This is a case about abortion. So, but just because the prosecutor says at the beginning, and in fact, almost because the prosecutor says at the beginning, this is not a case about abortion, means it's a case about abortion. That's the whole thing with an unreliable narrator. It's a literary device. I mean, it's been, the unreliable narrator has been around almost as long as literature. Huckleberry Finn was an unreliable narrator. He was a naive child. Forrest Gump is even an unreliable narrator. The whole of Wuthering Heights is narrated by an unreliable narrator. You have to really look at sometimes what he tells you he's seen and what he describes is not the same thing. It's a device used, and it's used a lot in movies and plays. Like when Rick in Casablanca at the beginning says, I'm not going to sacrifice my future for anyone. I'm finished with that idealism. You all know, at the end of this, he's going to be really idealistic and sacrifice his future for something bigger than himself. And, it's like at the beginning of a romantic comedy when a man and a woman say to each other, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Everyone, they're the unreliable narrators of this movie. Everyone consciously and subconsciously knows, they're the ones that are going to end up madly in love together at the end. So that's a very long-winded way of saying, look, just because, Laura, I humbly disagree with the New York Times review. And then she talks about, in the program bio, I say there was no media coverage of it, and she says, well, there was newspaper articles up on the screen, and it's like, New York Times reviewer, you can actually use Google. Google is a thing, and then you can find out that it was a national news story that this was not covered by the national media. So anyway, I don't want to spend too much time deconstructing the New York Times review. It's good to get it mentioned there. It's good to make people aware of it. I mean, but just to show you what we're up against, it's just been announced that Oh God, a show about abortion has been extended several more weeks. Money is no object to them. I know how much it costs to put on these shows. It's big money, and please, if you can help with that, we would love that. Go to gosnellplay.com, gosnellplay.com. It costs a lot of money, and it costs a lot more because we had to, at the last minute, hire a new venue, at the last minute, hire new actors. David had to stay on. He was going to leave early. You know, all this, hotels cost money, people cost money, venues cost money, and you know, we got reviewed in places like the New York Times. In fact, we were in the New York Times twice in 1 week. They did a news story about us, and then they did a review of us, which is pretty important, and it was covered in other media outlets also. So, but the Hollywood are determined to throw their money at this issue because they know Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned. So they've extended, oh God, a show about abortion, the comedy about abortion, for several more weeks. So please go to gosnellplay.com and help us get the truth out there. One thing I did notice, I spent several weeks there in New York, and I spent several weeks knocking around Broadway, going to a lot of plays, going to a lot of shows, went to Hamilton, went to Hangmen, went to a show called POTUS, which was 6 or 7 female assistants trying to work with a Trump-like president, which was actually quite funny. But I'll tell you one thing that wasn't funny in the whole Broadway experience was the kind of fascist bully boy hall monitors who were running around looking for your vaccine passport. Not just your vaccine passport, but your vaccine passport and your ID. And boy, were they strict. You couldn't get in without your ID. And I'm looking at them going, you're the same people that tell me that it's racist to ask for ID when you go and vote, but you think it's okay to ask people for ID when they want to go to... You insist that people who want to get into a poxy Broadway play it must show ID because it's really important, but they should not show ID when they want to vote, which is, you're sort of saying, is less important. And I think, you know, there's this line about I remember from the British TV show Yes Minister about the readers of the Daily Mail should run the country. The readers of the Times do run the country. The reader of the Daily Mail, their wives are married to the people who run the country. It was all very funny, and you can kind of fashion that into an American thing where it's like the people of Wall Street think they run the country. The people who live in the swamp, the bipartisan elites who live in the swamp, do run the country. But the people of Broadway and the artist community think they should run the country. And let me tell you, the experience in Broadway the last few weeks has let me know what happens when artists run the country. They turn into fascists. They love telling you to wear a mask. They love demanding vaccine passports. They love demanding the papers. And let's have a look at Patti LuPone, who was doing a talk back, a Q&A after one of her plays on Broadway. Let's have a look. Patti LuPone, the actress. Let's go.
Company star Patti LuPone, famous for raising the roof and raising her voice if people get out of line.
Put your mask over your nose. That's why you're in the theater. That is the rule.
Witnesses and show producers say LuPone repeatedly and politely asked 2 people attending a cast talkback following Monday night's performance to properly wear their masks, and they refused.
Patty's just a queen. She was doing what we all needed to say.
Addison Clover was at the talkback with her friend Brad and is one of the people who took video when LuPone's patients exited the stage.
Who do you think you are if you do not respect the people that are sitting around you?
So there's Patti LuPone, right? Not wearing a mask, lambasting and humiliating someone, not for not wearing a mask, but having the mask below her nose. This is when the rest of the country has decided that mask wearing is no longer important. You know, so when Hollywood want to run the country and their Democrat friends, we can see what's going to happen down the track. And now we're going over to a new documentary. It's called The Matter of Life. It's directed by Tracy Robinson. First of all, I'm going to play the trailer, and then we're going to go straight over to my interview with Tracy that I did earlier. So let's play that trailer now.
I think this is the battleground culture issue in America today.
How is it that we can trust an organization for whom abortion is such an important part of their business model to simultaneously effectively prevent pregnancy and prevent abortion?
The problem in America today is that people simply change the topic. The key
to successfully talking about abortion is to try to bring the conversation back to one key question.
When you're an obstetrician gynecologist and you're pro-choice, you have to decide whether you're actually going to do those abortions.
I believe that being pro-life is the most progressive value that we can have.
The abortion industry is most threatened by Christians engaging in pro-life work.
Finding that pregnancy center was the only person I had to support me at that time.
She's got to know when she takes that pregnancy test that her church is not going to treat her like the Pharisees tried to treat the woman caught in adultery.
As a church, we can't just vote pro-life, we have to be pro-love.
So I'm very delighted to be joined now by Tracy Robinson, who's been in the film industry now for 10 years. She's just made a documentary, The Matter of Life, about abortion. And I was very interested by I know Tracy. I've met her around at various events, and I was very struck by what she said about what inspired her to make this documentary. Was that she learned 10 years ago, she learned the truth about abortion. And I think that's really what got us making Gosnell, what got us writing the book, what got us doing the play, and now what got us doing lots of other things about Gosnell was because we realized the truth about abortion. So welcome to the show, Tracy. Your documentary has just launched through Fathom Events, and now later on people are going to be able to see it on a wider release. But I just wanted to talk about the show now and let people know what's coming so people can keep it on their radar. Tell us, how did you feel about abortion before you learned that truth? And what did you learn that made you go on this odyssey?
I, like you said, have been in film and video production and in my career, primarily video editing and documentary video editing.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2016, I was commissioned on and off to do videos for a pro-life pregnancy resource center in California. I was doing testimonial videos for them. And I was really inspired by what the pregnancy center was doing. Before this, I had no idea what a pregnancy center was. I didn't know they existed. And I loved how they were helping women in their times of crisis pregnancies. And there was a Bible study at the time for women who've had abortions in their past. They were getting healed and stuff. So I really found it to be such a positive and loving place. But even as an evangelical Christian, I was very much in the mushy middle when it came to abortion. I was very apathetic and didn't think it was a big deal in the grand scheme of things. I thought it was very nuanced. And I think if you were to ask me, I would say, well, I'm personally pro-life, but who am I to take away that choice for others? So essentially pro-choice Christian.
Yes.
And it wasn't until my friends, the staff at the pregnancy center there, invited me to an apologetics conference, and the topic was going to be the case against abortion. And in less than 2 hours, I went, and in less than 2 hours, the speaker, 𝙁𝙤𝙤 of Stand to Reason, he gave a clear, concise argument for the full humanity of the unborn child from the moment of conception. And just how clear the philosophy was and the logic. He didn't need to use any Bible verses to prove his point, to make a really great argument. And then he invited us to look at abortion imagery and fetal development. And the truth struck me for the first time. The reality of what abortion is and does struck me for the first time. And I was in that moment that I was immediately downloaded, I like to say, this vision that this needed to be a documentary film. And but I knew nothing about Roe v. Wade or the truth behind Planned Parenthood. I didn't know any of that. And I was so curious to know how we got to this point in our society. And so I began research. Yeah,
that's what struck me was, that what abortion is. People don't know what American abortion law is even. And I would have put myself in that category as well. I would have called myself neutral on abortion. And a bit like yourself. I mean, I think if you're neutral on abortion in America, you're pro-abortion, So until then, I went to the Gosnell trial, and it wasn't actually the testimony about Gosnell that got me interested. It was the testimony of the good abortion doctors who were there to give this is how it should be done.
I remember that in
evidence.
the movie. I remember
Yes.
watching those scenes in the movie.
This is how it should.
It's chilling.
Yeah, this is
It's
how
really
it should be
chilling.
done. And it's like, that's how it should be done. Do people know this? Did I know that? I didn't know that. I mean, if that's how it should be done, well, then it shouldn't be done, kind of thing. Or we need to have a real conversation about how it's been done and what, because these are people who talk openly about comfort care. These are people who talk openly about removing arms and legs and bits of bodies and reassembling the body afterwards. And you go through all that in your documentary. And, I remember talking to really intelligent Pennsylvanians, liberals actually, and good people, and telling them about the story, and they're quite interested in it actually. And I start talking about, his illegal abortions over 24 weeks. And they will turn to me and say, look, you're wrong there. You can't have an abortion in America after 12 weeks. And I'm going, yes, you can.
Little do they know.
But this is one woman in particular had spent, 15 years in Congress as a congressional aide, right? She's not a bad person at all. She probably is pro-choice, but she's genuinely telling me that you cannot have an abortion in America after 12 weeks. And and I remember that's a part of your documentary is people, I can't remember who said it, people don't know. And
Right.
majority of people think that there's no abortion in America after 12 weeks. And in fact, the original Roe was after 28 weeks, the point of viability.
28.
Yeah, 28 weeks. So what I did like about it was how we got into the history of abortion and how we got to where we are. Now, what did you learn there? And I learned some very interesting things as well, which I'll talk to you. But what did you learn there? What did you think was important to put in, and why?
Well, I was most astounded by the fact that that two men, Bernard Nathanson and his cohort, they really leveraged the feminism movement of the 1960s and 70s. They leveraged the feminists to really push and drive abortion in this country. Bernard Nathanson was advocating, he was one of the real activists when it came to legalizing abortion in the United States. He was an abortionist and committed thousands of abortions in New York City. Before he had a change of heart later in life when he saw an ultrasound, by the way, he became a pro-life activist and tried to educate the community and the public about fetal development and how abortion is wrong, ironically enough. But that was really something that struck me, was the abortion agenda that was behind the feminism movement of the 1960s and 70s was really driven by men.
Yeah, and actually you make a very good point. Previous to that, the feminist movement was anti-abortion, or abortion was not part of its agenda. It was a new thing in the 60s, almost in the 70s as well. And,
right.
And as you say, it was driven by men.
Yeah, that was something that was really inspiring to me. I discovered in my research, I discovered pro-life feminists, and they always point to the suffragettes, the feminists at that time who were rallying for the right to vote, or they were making voting for women possible. They also, when they could, they were speaking out against the evils of abortion. They thought abortion was degrading to women, to have to kill her own son or daughter in order to be equal with men. They thought that was very demeaning. And it is true to this day. And I think that we need to go back to that mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting that the feckless man has been the biggest beneficiary of abortion, if you want to call it that. It suited men, not women, abortion. And if you as well as I do, when you travel this country and travel the world speaking about abortion at a hotel or at an event, women come up afterwards to tell you about their abortion and how much it has affected their life. The wait staff come up afterwards. The woman who collects your car comes up and tells you it's a person who cleans your room. When they find out why you're there, they'll tell you. It hasn't brought the liberation that some in the women's liberation movement thought it would. And for many, it's brought a lifetime of doubt and second guessing and regret.
Yeah, in the Planned Parenthood versus Casey case in the 90s, their strongest argument was that because of Roe v. Wade, women rely now on abortion to succeed in society. That they thought that was their strongest argument. But it's really the most demeaning thing to say that a woman needs to deny their fertility and their biology in order to get by or to survive or fulfill their dreams. And so this film, some of the biggest advocates for this film have been men and women with abortion in their past, because they know that the information that's the message that's in this film can't be you can't unsee it. You can't unlearn it. It just really hits you not only in your mind, but in your heart. Just the message that a preborn child is deserving of rights and protection.
I didn't, I often go to the Guttmacher Institute myself sometimes for statistics, knowing that it's not a perfect place for statistics, but sometimes you get statistics there almost accidentally. But I didn't realize that Guttmacher was like a eugenicist and the former president of Planned Parenthood. So it makes, so I'll be going there a lot more skeptically. But I can't believe that the Guttmacher Institute, we're in the middle of cancel culture here, where you could get canceled for having, your great grandfather had lunch in a plantation, and therefore you must be canceled. And we've got Guttmacher here, a kind of a Nazi eugenicist. And now he's on the Guttmacher Institute, and he's quoted in every mainstream piece of mainstream media. And I also really love Dr. Anthony Levatino, his testimony in the documentary. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was really important to get Dr. Levatino's testimony. He is a OBGYN, and he committed abortions in his career. And he tells his story of how he came to completely stop doing abortions. He decided to completely stop doing them after a tragedy in his life. And it's such a powerful testimony, because he was it took him a long time for his heart to soften. And it just shows the audience that even the most reluctant convert, so to speak, even the most hard-hearted person that has their blinders on, who tells himself this is a good idea, even those people can be changed, transformed. And so it doesn't matter what has happened in your past. The Lord can really use it to restore, and he can use any story to really bring change and hope in the lives of others. And that's what I wanted to drive across.
I think, and it's something that's not acknowledged very often, is some of the best anti-abortion, pro-truth people in the anti-abortion movement, in the pro-life movement, are were former advocates for abortion, and they bring something to the table that people who've been pro-life all their life can't. They bring actual experience of the abortion movement, and they're able to tell you why they were like that and how you can then go and try and change the minds of other people like them. Tammy Lauren is a conservative speaker, and she said on her show that she was pro-choice, and she's 25 if she's a day, and all of conservative Twitter landed on her, and all the pro-life landed on her. And I'm going, look, you look at the panel of every anti-abortion movement in this country, more than half used to be firm advocates used to protest for abortion. So we should be welcoming these people, because they have very valuable testimony and very valuable information and very valuable ways so that people can craft arguments to get the truth to them. I saw that you say you're aiming this at Christian people. Do Christian people need to know about abortion? Don't they know? And why are you doing that?
Well, I wanted to make a documentary that everybody could watch. I didn't want it to be exclusive to Christians. But I knew that my target audience was going to be people of faith, because those are inevitably the people that are interested in this topic, that care about this topic, and who are going to see the movie. But it didn't strike me until midway through production, just the amount and the rate at which women of faith, women in churches, are getting abortions. I learned the statistic that 4 out of 10 women with an abortion in their past attended church in the month they became pregnant. And I learned shortly after that just how silent and also complicit the major Protestant denominations in America are on abortion. More than half are silent, or they actually make exceptions for abortion. And so what you find is people are not addressing this issue. Women are getting abortions. People are feeling like there's no other option for them. They don't know the truth or the real perspective about abortion. The church has deferred to the culture to inform people's worldviews. And so what you have is this kind of cycle where pastors know that there's so many people in church that have abortions. You can't talk about it because you can't, you don't want to offend people or hurt their feelings. So it's just like this revolving thing. But really there's this opportunity to love people 40% more, and to minister to women in need, who need support, and to also offer healing and forgiveness in the person of Jesus to people that have had abortions in their past and are really regretting it. We are really called, Christians are called as the body of Christ to defend people that can't defend themselves, to speak out for people that can't save themselves. Just like Christ in his love and forgiveness saved us when we couldn't save ourselves. So this is an issue for us as Christians. In the movie, Roland Warren says that we need to overturn Roe v. Wade in our own pews.
Yeah, funny. That's what I've always said, is that, legal maneuvers won't end abortion. It's when you make it unfashionable. When that's when the real change will come. It's you need to make it. And I think the legal part of it is part of that. There's part of this country now where people are firm and say we're not having that here, and it makes people look over and go, why are they doing that? Because they've been told all their life, and their mothers have been told all their life, that abortion is cool and liberating and empowering, and and they look down to certain places and they see that life goes on there, and women are happy there, and it's not The Handmaid's Tale, and it just hopefully maybe it'll pique their interest. So how can people get this movie? How can they get access to it, and how can they get access to you, so you can tell them where to get it? I know you had a couple of a very successful nights at a Fathom event premiere on Monday and Tuesday there, but going forward, what are the plans?
Yeah, the plans are to go to streaming and DVD, and people can also host a screening up to 30 days after the theatrical release. So they have until mid-June to host a screening in either their church or their college campus. They can host a screening, and it's part of the extended ticketing for the theatrical release, actually. So that's an opportunity there. But go to matteroflife.org and stay in touch and keep watch for the opportunities to stream. We're expected to make that announcement later in the summer.
Great. Well, couldn't recommend it enough, and we wish you all the success here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. People love rewriting history and saying, abortion's always been a feminist issue. They also love rewriting history saying abortion's always been part of America, and there's always been broad support for abortion in America. It's all nonsense. And when you look at the track record of some of the people who have been supporting abortion all along, you realize the deeply racist roots of abortion in America. So please make time to watch this. It's very important that people are educated, and I think she's right that people in the church community and people who think they know this story don't know it, but should know it. So crazy California, what can I say? The California Coastal Commission has rejected a $1.4 billion desalination plant in Orange County over environmental concerns. You know, not over environmental facts, but over environmental concerns. There are desalination plants in Carlsbad. There are desalination plants in Santa Barbara. I think there's one down in Long Beach. There's desalination plants all down the coast. There are desalination plants all over the world. They provide no environmental damage. Look, these people do not want to solve problems. They want a permanent state of crisis. There's no scientific reason. Even their scientific advisors said there was no problem with this desalination plant, but they blocked it anyway. And the next time they tell you to spend less time in the shower because we're short of water, you know, don't. That's my opinion. Don't, because these are not serious people. They do not care about drought. They do not care about creating solutions. They care about creating problems, and they hate industrialized answers to environmental to problems, because that lets people know there are answers to the problems that modern life throw up, and they want to condemn modern life and industrialization as this irredeemable evil when it's not. It's a wonderful part of progress, and any problems that are thrown up, we will use progress to solve them as well. Progress, I suppose there's some progress. We are now looking at the shares of Netflix falling from $700 to $180. That's not the progressive bit. Progress is that the company has updated its culture page and basically planted a flag apparently for free speech. Let's see how that works out in reality. Maybe it was prompted by the drastic fall in share price. And they're basically, I think this came out of the Dave Chappelle controversy when workers threatened to walk out. And they added the new language, he said, so that prospective employees could understand their position and make better informed decisions about whether Netflix is the right company for them. And the quote from Netflix is, depending on your role, you may need to work on titles you perceive to be harmful. If you find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the place for you. Isn't that the perfect answer to all the people, all the cancel culture people, all the people who want to shut you down? Isn't that the perfect answer? This may not be the place for you. You can go away now. And it may be the place for other people. And we welcome them. Let's hope that is the beginning of the end of cancel culture. But it's not. I know it's not. For more information, go to mysonhunter.com. For more information with the Gosnell Play, go to gosnellplay.com. And we will see you next week. Thank you. Bye.